History's most transformative moments don't always come with loud explosions or dramatic battles. More often, they happen quietly, hidden in the crumbling legacy of a family, a feast that turns sour, or a single glance that says everything. In Dream of the Red Chamber, Cao Zhuoqin uses the Jia family to reflect China's last feudal dynasty, showing us the inevitable decline of an empire. This is not just a story, it is a powerful exploration of power, bloodlines, and the rise and fall of civilizations, like the Corleone family in The Godfather, or the Roys in Succession. The Jia family's collapse reveals a crucial lesson. Any system that resists change, no matter how grand it seems, is doomed to collapse from within. Let's dive into the tragic story of how the Jia family's empire crumbled. The Jia family represents the ultimate example of a parasitic system, a structure that thrives on favor and manipulation. The first source of power is vertical, the favor bestowed upon them. Yuanchan's rise to the position of empress was not just a personal glory, but the strategic binding of the Jia bloodline to imperial power. The family's extravagant family visit, glittering with jewels and gold, was not just a celebration, it was a political performance, designed to demonstrate the Jia family's indispensability within the feudal system. Like Vito Corleone's network of friendship in The Godfather, favor is an exclusive power discount, entirely dependent on the continuous flow of blood from its source. The second source of power is horizontal, the strategic alliances formed through marriage. In reality, the union of the Jia and Zhu families was a calculated move to restructure their assets and secure their survival. As the aristocracy's economic foundation weakened, marriages became the means to secure survival, much like the prearranged unions of the Roy children in Succession. Here, romantic ideals gave way to the hard logic of survival, and marriage became the lifeblood of a crumbling system. But therein lies the fatal flaw, the system's own inability to renew itself. When power can be inherited through blood and favor, any system that allows for merit or fair competition is seen as a threat. The civil examination system, designed to refresh the empire, was abandoned by the very elite it was meant to serve. The collapse of the Jia family was not some external accident. It was written into the very structure of its existence, an inevitable death born from within. When a system loses its ability to draw new value from the outside, it begins to unravel from within, its internal struggles turning into a zero-sum game. The warmth of family ties becomes the first sacrifice. The early stages of decay manifest in the fracture of the ruling elite. The conflict between Jia Shi and Jia Zheng over titles and control was not a simple sibling dispute. It was a clash between nominal power and economic power. It's a battle that echoes through time, like the bitter power struggles within the Roy family in Succession. What once held the family together, the notion of a shared destiny, begins to break apart, replaced by competing interests and fractured loyalties. At a later stage, the system's very foundation begins to rot. The conflict spreads to the family's lower levels. When the chief steward's garden rivals that of a mid-ranking official, and servants fight over control of the kitchen, the system has inverted. What was once the servant of the system becomes an independent faction, extracting resources for itself. Wang Zifeng's actions, her lending and bribery, are not mere personal corruption. They are the rational response of a manager seeking survival in a dying structure. At this point, the illusion of a family destiny shatters completely. What remains is a Ponzi scheme, with bloodlines reduced to fragile credit, endlessly circling the drain. The collapse of a parasitic system begins with the erosion of its foundational credit, and the rupture of its external alliances. The tightening of the external environment marks the first sign of the system's inevitable collapse. The eunuchs, once the bearers of royal favor, become debt collectors, and the plundering of the Zheyan family in Jiannan signals a shift in the winds of power. The promises of power are crumbling under the weight of their own decay. This mirrors the collapse of the Corleone family, when external forces finally challenge their empire of loyalty and violence. Internally, the moral fabric of the system disintegrates. The petty battles over women and wealth between Jia Shi and Jia Lian are the final signs of a ruling class that has lost its higher purpose, slipping into animalistic instincts. The most symbolic moment is the bride swap. The marriage between Bao Yu and Bao Kai, once a sacred bond, is reduced to an empty ritual, an alliance with a decaying family. This act symbolizes a civilization that can no longer create new value. It is a hollow mechanical reproduction of past forms, disconnected from its original soul. When external protections fail, an internal renewal becomes impossible. The collapse of the system is no longer a tragedy. It is a mathematical certainty. The fall of the Jia family is not simply the end of a family, but the end of a particular civilization's logic. Bao Yu's decision to renounce the world is not merely a rejection of his inheritance, but a rejection of the very idea of inheritance itself. His act is a declaration: the system is broken, and its values are meaningless. The phrase, "the vast white land is truly clean and empty," resonates with profound philosophical weight. It symbolizes the inevitable collapse of closed systems that resist innovation and stifle change. From the hereditary aristocracy of Rome to the French court under the old regime, their downfall shares the same core mechanism as the Jia families in their effort to preserve all value as an inherited assets. They destroyed the very capacity to create new value. Dream of the Red Chamber becomes a timeless warning. It reveals that the true resilience of a civilization lies not in how high its pinnacle reaches, but in whether its foundation remains open, dynamic, and capable of adapting. The elegy of the Jia family is a call to examine every system, every society that appears eternal. When internal interests outweigh ideals, when dynastic becomes the sole measure of success, the end of that system has already been written.